You guys can probably hear me. I have forgotten how to do the OBS thing. I am going to turn on. I'm supposed to turn on, I think. I think. Oh, I see. Do this. That's that. Oh my lord. We love you all. This is not our strong point. Oh, I see. Make that invisible. And then this visible? No. All right. We love you all, honestly. Where is, no, not the webcam. That can go down here. Okay, folks, I am learning OBS all over again. And this is definitely an interesting challenge. Where is that QuickTime? Maybe it's this QuickTime. Well, no, I had it all set up. Hang on a second, folks. I can do this. That's this one. And suddenly it's not it. Aha! Aha! Folks, let's give this a try, shall we? We're prop builders, not necessarily. We gotta learn how to be broadcasters. Okay, ready? 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 This is what I want to show you. Ready? Okay, here we go. Ba-da-da. Transition. Okay, it won't transition now. Oh, I see this. Ah! This is what we wanted to do. All right, I went too early, but there you go. We are still learning, folks. How are we all today? Martin is presently making a little bit of food that he thinks he can stomach. Both of us have had a very difficult day today, but we have survived. And I see there's not enough light here. And right, the OBS is opposite, so I gotta be over here when I think I should be over there. Oh! How is everyone today? Hello, 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 hello. I see we have 2 people on the chat. Earlier I saw about 6 of you on standby, and that was flattering and wonderful and great. And we thought of moving this to tomorrow evening as well. Maybe we'll redo it tomorrow evening. I don't know. There's a lot that still has to get done here. Martin is making some soup and a basic grilled cheese sandwich. If we can make props, we can do that. The question is, Martin, where is the LED light? Because there's not enough light here. And we want to show everyone some great stuff, some wonderful pieces. I am going to go over here. Would you do me a favor and grab some things from the case?
I can grab things from the case. Sandwiches are
Well, there it is.
There it is.
Folks, it wasn't that long ago we finally stopped moving everywhere and found a home. So we're still trying to figure out where everything should go in a 700 square foot studio that normally would go in a 1700 square foot home. So we're gonna do this lovely camera light. Oh, why is it not staying on?
Is it brightness turn right now?
Oh, right. It's been a while since I've used this too. We apologize immensely. It seemed to be Martin's turn to get ill. We have put our little video up in the upper corner, so we have to be aware that where Martin's standing right now, he is not visible.
Where I'm standing is not visible?
That's right.
Okay. You can't see my,
You disappeared behind Brandon.
basically oh.
No, case. Display case.
Oh, it's stuff in the display case.
Yeah, like lightsabers and the Cyclops visor, which we really do want to share with you guys, and all that other stuff that is in the display case that we actually managed to get in the display case. I would love for everyone to say hello. I see there's 2 of you here. It's an awkward start today, a very, very awkward start today. If there's a request to redo this either later on tonight or tomorrow, we'll have gotten the hang of this, I hope. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play in the corner of the other video. I'm going to remove the audio. I am looking on... Oh, I don't see Pretty Heroes logo in the corner. Let's make this perfect, you guys. We're still learning. We are still learning. I'm confused. Okay, you know what? Okay. Here we go. We are not normally this scattered. I guess the COVID thing has really... So I am going to move this. Oh, why is it not showing? Okay, folks. What do you see? The 2 people who are right now in the chat, can you please tell me what you see? Do you see the Pretty Heroes logo? Do you see the Pretty Heroes logo? Hello? Or am I not seeing chat? Oh, anyone who has my phone number, can you please text message? A lot of this seems to be us trying to get the hang of this. And that's not what we want for you guys. Alright, I guess it's going to stay in the corner, and I am going to play with this OBS tonight, so tomorrow is perfect. So, we're going to chop our heads off. See, and I still see the other notification behind. Hi guys, how are we all today, tonight? All that other stuff. I'm going to play this in the corner. Now, I'm going to start because Martin's still doing what he needs to do. This is probably one of the most popular production of cosplay is probably one of the most popular to do at conventions, which is why if you guys want us to redo it tomorrow night, we will happily do so, because we do feel like we followed and we understand that it was a physical thing and it was Martin's turn to be sick, so we are willing to do what it takes to give you guys what you need. Pretty Heroes. I only heard about Pretty Heroes more recently, and I think it's admirable and it's wonderful and it's great what's happening, what you're doing, and we're going to do our best to be that female focused and female positive. A lot of the footage we have is either wings and things stuff. The Wings and Things panel tomorrow will be definitely female focused because we have yet to make a male fairy for Martin. It is in the works, it is planned, and it is something Oh. What's happened here? Welcome to live chat. Daytime will be 4 p.m. Unfortunately, YouTube won't let us update the reminder time. Okay. I'm hoping people saw that. If Pretty Heroes could please let people know that we are on. And that, oh, there's the third person. Yay! This is working. This is not the layout I planned, but for some reason my OBS is not doing what I wanted to do. It could be because I'm frazzled. Neither Martin or I have slept much last night. It was Martin's turn. Oh, can I have it as a cup of soup so I can still keep performing? Well,
Cup actually would be.
cup would be really easy.
For both of us.
Martin has decided that he can stop soup, and it smells like grilled cheese.
I'm gonna give it a shot.
He's going to try grilled cheese, folks.
I've not had a lot of protein in me today, so.
If I suddenly wind up doing the panel alone, we know what happened. Proteins right now are not a good idea. So for the wings and things, I'm going to put that video in a different spot, maybe down there or down there. But we will figure it out tomorrow. Okie dokie. If someone could please just say something in the chat, I would love to see whether or not that's working okay. This is a very new thing for Martin and I, broadcasting on YouTube. It's not something we've done before, so it is something that I'm trying to get used to. And we're going to let the video play in the corner, start milling in your head the questions. We are happy to advise on things and make them very female focused because, ladies, face it, we've been dressing up longer than men. We remember, Martin and I have been in science fiction and geek fandom on all levels since the early 80s. At least me since the early 80s. I guess you're only a couple of years behind me.
Only a couple of years, yeah.
Only a couple of years behind me. And it was, the best way for a man to express himself was to dress up and go to a convention. Back then, the masquerade was male. Very rarely were there female characters or female versions. We weren't, in the 80s, we were very open to a lot of things, but we weren't so open that people were starting to encourage to experiment because, as cosplayers, we weren't really in that space. But the encouragement to get Martin to cosplay properly and, completely be into, what he needs to be into helped us get into the industry. Sorry, it's this way. Everything's reversed. Get into the industry to a level where we were building and producing and creating, and that was always a really good thing for us. So I'm getting the hang of this. If someone could leave a comment, I would appreciate it. If someone could leave a comment, I would be appreciative. Okay, I'm going to assume the live chat is working and I just don't see it. I'm going to assume. Don't worry, I'll replay the video if you need to come back up to the computer and pull things back. I will do so. But this is a bit of a learning curve, and I'm very happy Pretty Heroes is being patient with us in order to let us do this learning curve. Alright, so I'm going to put this down and start off. Production of Cosplay became a regular panel for us in about 1991. That was about the point where we were heavily into production, building, creating. At the time, I was more a seamstress or a costumer than I was a prop maker. But I got to a point where I discovered a lot of people were not helping me by being unhappy with their bodies. And therefore, I really couldn't sew for other people anymore. I barely could sew for myself and feel good.
Yeah, really.
It was always a hard thing. Men have an easier time. They do, ladies. They do. A lot of men, you do. Different struggles than us.
Because our sticky outy bits aren't in the same places, I guess.
Your sticky outy bit?
Yeah. It's
wow.
Technical term.
Sleeping through most of the day and keeping me up half the night was
God,
really just like brought the personality forward, hasn't it?
Uh-huh.
We may have to redo this panel tomorrow night. You know that?
We may.
If Pretty Heroes wants us to do that, please let us know, and we will be promoting and advertising right away. But hopefully we'll sleep tonight. So it's a lot easier for a man to do it now, whereas back then it was his only outlet. It's now the most common thing for people to do at a convention, whether you're male or female. So that's a huge thing. So with women, we struggle.
I'm not having mustard, but do you want some?
I don't want mustard, no. No, I'm going to get it off there. Okay. For women, we have a lot greater level of self-esteem issues. We just do. A lot of our lives are based on how we look more than boys do. And I was a bit of a tomboy when I was a kid, so I didn't notice it as much. But you'll see tomorrow, we're going to get into our leathers tomorrow, because hopefully Martin will feel better tomorrow. Can I have a lactate tablet?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
We don't want you in the
Because then I'll be sick next. Time. People on our social channels. Yay! Thank you so much for presenting. We're going to do the best we can. It's not our best. It still also feels weird to be doing this way. It's okay, technical issues happen. I know. Martin and I are perfectionists. I'm literally still half asleep. So, yeah. What? You're chuckling. Okay. So, if you need us to redo it tomorrow, let us know. We're behind on a lot of things because of being sick, but, for you guys, come on. I am really, really happy that Pretty Heroes is here and is trying to bring a very positive outlook on the female body and presence. All right, folks, let's get down to.
Okay, I threw a little bit of ginger in this too, so hopefully that'll help.
Well, that's what the taste
settle my
is.
stomach, yeah.
All right.
Ginger and parsley, both very soothing.
Do you want to get on our social media, like Facebook, and say, hey, we're on?
That is a good idea.
Yeah. Look for Pretty Hero. Is this mine?
Yes.
Okay. That's when we keep disappearing. Yes, tomorrow I am putting the video in the bottom corner and maybe our logo in the top corner. Because, say yesterday, tomorrow. What day are we on?
Here we are. It's a Saturday, isn't it? I think, yeah.
I don't know either. Because the time machine's broken. The police box went by years ago. So, as you can see, with the combination of video playing in the corner, Martin and I have been doing this for years. And in both the production level and the cosplay level. Most of our peers within the production industry, like within prop building, within the industry itself, tend to walk away from their even though cosplay is the way they started. They tend to walk away because they don't want to build during the day and at night. Martin and I are a little different because it's part of our identity and it's the main reason we got into production. We haven't stopped cosplaying. Back in the 80s, we didn't call it cosplaying. We just simply called it an identity crisis.
That's
So-
yeah.
Part of the creating of production to cosplay, part of the reason to create this panel is to show you guys that, if you look at the beginning of the video, there was the Atom suit. And this beautiful creation. Right, that's basically it starts with the drawings. So that's what happens when we get in production, is they give us the drawings, we have to get a whole costume department, and we have to keep in mind that there will always be a stunt version, which should never be the same quality as the hero version, because it costs too much to repair if it gets broken. There's a lot of techniques we use to be able to do that, to be able to make something look broken when it's not, and to really have a lot of courage, because the Atom suit is equivalent to the cost of a house, really.
The first one.
The first one. Because it's props department, it's the costume department, you gotta bring in the camera guys, the lighting guys, the sound guys for tests,
Fittings,
you gotta
more
pay the
fittings,
actors,
modifications, more fittings.
gotta pay the stunt guy. The shop we were working for at the time, the body molds of both the stunt guys and Brandon were in the shop. Sometimes we were working with shops where we could 3D print an actor's body. We never did we promised ourselves that we would run a 3D print of ourselves. And we never got to it.
No.
Huh. We'll have to do the old-fashioned way sometime, which is the newspaper and tape way. It makes a soft form, which makes it really hard to do. Yeah, the duct tape dummy makes it really hard to adjust things, but sometimes it's the best way to do it and the quickest and cheapest. So this is a production meeting with all the production people looking and going, "Oh my God, you guys did great." For what they paid.
The monitor is the production team from LA.
Mm-hmm. For what they paid for that suit, really, even the Wonder Woman suit, if we want to go in the female direction, it's still the same thing. It's more than measurement. It's casting. It's making three-dimensional forms of the actors. It's going, excuse me, it's going through all that process all over again. You as a cosplayer, not so much. And we encourage people, we've had people come up to us and say, will you make the whole costume? I'd rather say no. I'd rather make you some 3D printed assembly pieces and have you assemble it.
Some of the armor bits to put on, yeah.
And you sew underneath. I'd rather tell you what material is underneath his jumpsuit. And you have to understand, without a 3D form on you, you're not going to get the same fit. Or you might. Women, on the other hand, like, I mean, women, we have so many shapes and sizes, and you guys are pretty basic.
Yeah, we're cylinders, basically.
So, yeah. So if you think about it, you look, Brandon's moving around a lot. It has a lot to do with a lot of the spaces where you see what looks like armor. Isn't really armor. It's just plastic. For us, it's a matter of 3D printing.
Plastic, foam,
or
pressed foam pads.
All modified and painted. Automotive paints are a big thing for us. We use them on everything because automotive paint bites in. If you use vinyl paints, you can get different colors out of vinyl if you don't want to spend the money on leather. But keep in mind, vinyl always degasses. So you're looking at a costume that costs so much because the time, the different departments involved, and the fact that, you know, it's a superhero on a TV show with high resolution cameras, etc., etc. For you to do equivalent to this, it is a matter of, you can take castings. We've done castings, like just plaster castings, and then done support to get for part of the body in order to create a piece of armor. We've done armor out of paper mache when we've had absolutely no budget. You're looking at 11 layers. Did Anubis come back out of?
Oh, Anubis didn't come from locker. No.
We've done paper mache Egyptian masks that are still with us, even though they were made in the.
We even did some Rohirrim helmets like that for an event one time.
We did some quick Rohirrim helmets, and we blew up a balloon. You talk. I eat.
Shouldn't eat. Yeah, so we basically did the old-fashioned method. You know, balloon, put the paper mache over top of it, and then we cut the shape of the helmet. Added the wing parts were just cardboard, painted up. Everything looked painted up to look like silver and gold and whatever else. We for one of the Rohirrim helmets, it had like the horse shape for the crest with all the hair coming out of it like a horse's mane. So that we hand cut a piece of plastic to look like that shape, and then glued the. I think it was one of those cheap. You can get them in like the beauty supply places. The cheap extensions, right? Real hair extensions, fake hair extensions, all different colors and shades. So we got one of those, and we into the ridge to get that big mane look too.
And once you spray it with automotive paint, it looks like metal. And one of my in faux finishes, making something look like something it isn't, and that's something you got to play with. With me, when I'm using the paints, it's usually about 4 or 5 different paints of a similar spectrum to the original metal, because metal is not perfect. I mean, that's all plastic. You're looking at all plastic to be painted to look like metal. So when you paint it, you don't use one color because it's too solid. It's too
uniform.
Yeah. So you use different shades. Like, I mean, each and every one of these, they're painted in those shades over top of each other. You put highlights and lowlights. You do it while the paint is half wet, so it all bleeds together, and that's how you get that metal effect. Now, plastics. A lot of you over time have asked things like Warbler. We did buy a huge sheet of Warbler when we were in BC for our Periscope audience to work with it and talk about it, and it frustrated us as prop makers to no end.
We're not big fans of Warbler.
By the time you dip it, plastic coat it, if it gets too hot anyway, it's going to warp anyway. You're spending just as much money as getting ABS or Stargate or any of the other plastics. And I'm sure there are shops around because it wasn't that long ago we moved back to Toronto. But I'm sure there's still places around.
Exploring the shops that are around.
Would that still do vacuum forming? So you make your original out of wood. I've seen people do originals out of plaster. I've seen people do originals out of foam. Keep in mind, foam will collapse a little bit under the pressure of the vacuum former. Just help the vacuum form people. Ask them, or make your own vacuum. There's a lot of tutorials on how to make your own little vacuum form table.
Yeah, using a shop vac and some heating elements, basically.
And it's a styrene, and it's pulled over. It's heated up by a flat heat element, and then it's pulled. We do that a lot as well. Did you bring me metal swords that are not steel?
Yes, I brought the aluminum.
Okay. So let's start this off right. So people are here can go, you know, so and so left and they missed this. Cyclops Visor?
Cyclops Visor. Yes.
I'm trying not to get oil on your fingers.
Not at the moment.
All right, there's the camera. This is one of the Cyclops visors from X-Men. We used to bring it to conventions a lot. Look at where the camera is in comparison to the video.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, everything's opposite.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we're
Move
kind
it
of
over that way.
behind the light.
Move it up.
A little bit better. Yeah.
There you go. Now I'm wearing it.
Oh, now you're wearing. Oh, that's what you were trying to do. It's that ridiculous oversized head kind of look to it, right?
Yes,
Oh,
exactly.
there we go. A little bit more light, so now we can see.
Now stop disappearing behind the video. Remember, everything's opposite.
Other
way.
Yeah.
Other way. Keep going.
And
Okay.
There.
We used to bring the Cyclops visor. We very rarely get gifts, and a lot of things that we had around from way back when were they've disintegrated or they've fallen apart. Cyclops visor is no exception. For the production, we hybrid plastics with rubber in order to make it flexible for him to put it on his face. Okay. Over the years, it is no longer flexible. We can't have anyone wear it. We can't have anyone seriously touch it. It breaks so easily, and of course it breaks at the joints more than anywhere else. Oh yeah, see that Cleopatra crown? Half of that is paper mache. And I only basically finally gave up on repairing it like last year before we moved.
That's right, yeah.
So it didn't move with us. So that's the Cyclops visor. That is one of the ones that is a Oakley lens. So basically Oakley sent the lenses to the shop.
Was it the iridium red or whatever they called it? Yeah.
The original design they brought in was very much like the old comic books and the old cartoon with the big,
bigger,
huge,
clunkier,
clunky.
yeah.
And then they got it on his face. A different shop made that. No, it was Oakley that made it.
It was Oakley that
It was Oakley
did
that actually made
it was
that.
actually a very early 3D print, like 25 years ago. Very early 3D print, so not very good resolution. We had a lot of cleanup to do on it, a lot of modifications to the parts before we could actually make it a camera-worthy item.
Okay. So this does not come to conventions anymore. This is the only way you're going to see it, guys. Or you come visit. It's over. We never give away or sell a prop that's belonged to a production, so we've had offers for this. I'd rather you make your own.
Yeah.
Okay. That visor way back then is worth about, oh jeez,
This was about 30
yeah,
grand for this.
about 30 grand.
Yeah, actually wearing it.
I'm not putting it on again. Last time I did that at a convention, it snapped and it was like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm never wearing it again.
One of the hinge points popped apart. We had to reglue it.
My head's just as fat as the actors. It's true.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, you're gonna take a bite. Fine.
I guess.
So, things like that can still be achieved. If what I would recommend if you're trying to keep your budget down, use wood, sand out the wood, take a mold of the wood, make sure you have your appropriate seams and everything cut, take a mold of the wood, and then use a resin or there's some products on the market that were not on the market back then. Smooth On is our favorite company of all time. They have a called Dragon Skin, which is like you can do prosthetics with the high grade dragon skin. The lower grade is,
rubber.
you know.
It's really, really good.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't around back then. And you get the right grade, the right consistency. You can put color in it, so the color comes out. To give you a comparison, where's the mold for it?
The mold was buried too far back in the locker. I got the mold from the recent project that we worked on.
Okay. We're not gonna tell them what it is because. We have a failed mold, right? He's pulling it out of the garbage, believe it or not, guys. So, this is my horn, my Maleficent horn. You can see, it's pretty solid. You can still squeeze it and stuff, so it's not gonna kill a kid. But, this was the first pour, so it was the color did not go in. In this case, we did like a 2-part putty molding compound that Smooth On has. And there were 3 of us, and I use artist plasticine. Don't let your cats near it, and don't touch your face or your mouth after you've been handling it. So it'll look different than this mold, but this is still an example. And then what we did is because I wanted to get all the little ridges, I spent time studying for my version of Maleficent. I spent time studying horns on different types of animals and bulls and stuff like that. So I made little bumps where it took forever. It took about 3 months because I just took my sweet time. But artist plasticine is beautiful because it'll stay for a long period of time. So you can take your sweet time, but you have to really work it, and your hands will get exercise. Boy, will they get exercise! Mm-hmm. So this is my Maleficent horn, and this is just a 2-part.
2-part foam. Yeah.
2-part foam by Smooth On, right? So you can do anything with this. You can do a visor with this same product, and it's flexible enough that it'll get around your face. Just make sure you brush in first, like you put a membrane in. I slushed it in, and then put the expanding 2-part foam in, right? So this is we did a latex on top.
No, that was also one of the Smooth On. That was the task 13.
He's got it all memorized.
It's a rubber. Right, it's a 2-part rubber, so not a foam. So it gives a nice smooth surface. Whereas the foam, if you just use the foam on the surface, your surface would be covered in bubbles. So it would look like upholstery foam.
It's a little bubbly, right? So Smooth On has excellent products. Don't be afraid to order or pick it up or whatever, and use it. This mold, we did the 2-part putty, so it wound up being a kind of bubbly, kind of weird form. And the reason when there was 3 of us is because one of us was pushing it on while the other 2 were combining the 2 parts, because it's fast. So you have to get it on before it completely sets. And then you plaster it. You plaster bandage. So you do one side and you create like a seam wherever you want the seam. In this case, I made sure the seam was on the ridge because that's where it's going to disappear, right? And yeah, the color's inside it. It's a specific color for the product. And you just drop the paint in and you get the appropriate color. You paint it up and highlight it, but you want it to be the color you want it to be, right? So we put the seam right along this ridge, and then we put a little bit, once the plaster dried, the plaster bandage dried, we put a bit of Vaseline along the edge, all up, down, in here, right? And then we did the other side. So now you've got this sort of shell. And then we very carefully cut through. Like we pulled it off, and then we very carefully cut through the molding product. And then we had 2 parts. Now this particular mold wound up in the garbage because there were so many bubbles we couldn't use it. So Martin pulled it out of the garbage because we haven't put the garbage in yet. But you can see in this case, it was for production. We had a stunt dummy, and we love this Velcro stuff. The 2-sided Velcro stuff. So we made a box. This is just 2 halves to keep it together. Oh yeah, when you're pulling that too, make sure you wrap like an elastic band or something around, so everything's nice and tight.
Or you can build up a little flange on the side, use like clamps, even using like the document clamps to hold it
Yeah, we
together.
did that a lot too. We've got some photographs of the Maleficent
bags,
horn.
whatever.
So for this, here, hang on a second. I'm going to get this completely out of the way. Ugh. Vaseline. So for this, we took the item, we put a post in the end, and we created a box for it. We kept 2 sides of the box so we can pull it together nice and flat, and we poured, popping the bubbles out, we poured around the original. And yeah, it wound up very bubbly. So yeah, we won't be using this mold because the amount of time and effort it would take to make any fixes to get the original look anything like the original is just too much. It's not worth our money, right? So it's now it's a dud mold, but it's enough to show you guys how to do it. And you can do this. You just got to make sure you bubble all the air, you get all the bubbles out, you get all the air bubbles out. There was another part of this particular prop that wound up with air bubbles in it as well. And we wound up using that for that part of the mold because we'd run out of time. And we wound up actually spending more time fixing the bubbles.
Sanding and filling the bubbles on the final, the final castings.
So it's feasible and it's great because you can make a duplicate of whatever you use, wood, plaster, anything. We've made billions of these. When the other project was happening, another shop we were working for, they had a machine that takes all these bubbles. It's basically a pressure machine. You put the item in with the molding material, and it sucks the air basically.
Basically, it's like a pressure cooker pot with a modified pressure pot connected to a little vacuum pump. So you put the lid on, you snap it down, and hit the vacuum pump, and it. You got to be careful when your rubber, when you've mixed it, you got to make sure the cup has got double the volume of what you've mixed, because as the air gets sucked out of the chamber, your material will foam up briefly until the bubbles all come up to the surface and evaporate and get sucked away, and then it'll go back down to normal volume. So a few times too. It's like we got a full cup of 2-part silicone sitting in there. It's all been mixed. It's ready to go, and you hit the vacuum switch, and when you come back to it, it's just flowed over the top, and it's all over the inside of the tank, and it's a real mess.
And again, you can make things like that at home.
Yeah.
To pull the air out of things. It's not that hard, and there's plenty of tutorials, guys. But right now we don't have the physical space, or we would have such a thing made already. So, other real props, close up. Who here remembers Earth Funnel Conflict? Woo! These are 2 global links from the show. Okay? Again, think way back. I mean, a lot of classic stuff is coming in style too. Again, a lot of expense that you don't have to spend money on, really. There's a lot of things that we did for that you don't need to do at home. This is basically what you would call a Western switch situation. So you'd see the actor with this, right? He presses the closed version, he presses the button, and then this goes out of frame. This one comes into frame, okay? The big thing with this is, they needed somewhere it actually does, switch open. And if you're on stage, you need something that switches open. And there's a lot more alternatives now to doing it better than the way we did. Because what we had was basically that end, right? That end, right? And it was a piece of paper with a intricate crisscrossing kind of accordion.
Scissor mechanism, yeah.
Right? So when the button was pressed, it popped out, and the piece of paper looked like the back. And then again, they switched to another actor or whatever, or you see the person go like this, so it's out of shot. And you had to remind each other to keep it nice.
That paper was on a little spring-loaded paper, so it would roll up like an old roller blind, right? It would roll up inside when it closes and unroll when you open it up.
So we're never happy either. So we're constantly modifying it. Now this thing would be a lot easier to do now if you keep it open, right? Because you look at this one, the battery inside is actually a camera.
Left is right, right is left.
Yeah, right, left is right, right is left.
Camera battery. I don't think we can get any more.
No, I have not been able to find these batteries at all. So there's a camera battery, very tight in there. Don't worry, you can find much more batteries now than before, and you can see. And I'm so used to doing this on a live audience, right? And then we didn't always put graphics in, but Martin and I printed out the Global Link graphic because that would be CG'd later. I'm going to move the graphic out of the way. And there you go. I don't know who here recognizes the old flat light boards. These were super expensive to pick up. You know,
And technically not very bright by today's standards.
no, and I wish we could show you what they used to look like, but that battery is long dead. You can see we unscrew the end to get the battery out. Right, it's just got a single plate over top of it. Diggle's helmet, favorite pieces. So
Spartan.
this kind of thing, you can get screens now that will light up, and you can print out. Remember, whenever you print out something that's clear like this, or acetate or anything like that, reverse your image so that the ink is on the inside and protected, as opposed to the outside, and more likely to get wet. We made tricorders years ago. Oopsie, I put it the wrong way around. We made tricorders years ago, and the screens are so bled. They're just so bled. And we pulled them apart for parts and other things. And that's the thing too, back when we made the tricorders when we were working for Paramount Home Video, when we made those tricorders, surface mount chips were extremely expensive, and they didn't want to budget that out. So we actually sat there and hand sanded down every single chip, every single little LED, right down to its bottom element.
Yeah, top and bottom, clip the leads as far down as we could so that they could be surface soldered onto the boards.
That's mine, right?
That's yours, yeah. I finished mine. My doing pretty good.
Okay.
The sandwich is like, oh, hey, food. What a concept.
So it was that meal you ate yesterday.
Yeah, it was,
we are not going back to that place.
No.
Even during COVID, I'm not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We got everything on storage. Right.
Swords.
I'll go to the swords in a moment.
And we have the other version.
Dry. That's the 3D printed. All right. Well, that's not the same one.
They're not the same ones, though. I didn't realize that. Yeah, I don't think the second.
Okay. Well, where's the second of my actual?
In the bin, still in the car.
In the bin, in the car. All right. I think we're redoing this panel again tomorrow, aren't we? So we get more people in. All right. Air dry polymer. If you got kids doing a character and they're doing their favorite superhero or whatever, you can see that's cracked a little bit. Air dry polymer clay will do. And all we did for this is get a tube the rough same size as my wrist, and we got the air dry clay. The nice thing about the air dry stuff is it's usually paper based. So if your kid doesn't think about it and licks her fingers,
Yeah, you're not going to need a new kid.
then you're not gonna need a new kid. Unless you want a new kid, then use the other polymer. But yeah, and paint it. The nice thing about the air dry polymer clay too is you don't have to do automotive paints or anything. That's all just brush on paint. Paint it inside dark in case if you, and let them see what they want to see on the character, and then just let it dry. And then when it dries, you slit it. Now this is a 3D printed one. You can see it really doesn't look that different, right? This is more spray paint with brush paint for highlights. This is all brush paint, right? So the difference is not really that simple, especially if you've got a kid and you want them to make their own. I encourage it for you to do this way or paper mache. Paper mache will also work, but the problem with paper mache is even if it dries, when you've got a circular shape like this and the person is sweating, like this will warp a little bit with sweat. But if paper mache does get way too wet, it will warp and it will fall apart, and all the alignments to close it will, it'll go out in alignment. It'll look like hell. So how do we close these things? Everyone's like, how do you do that and make it disappear? And we do this in production too. We do, honestly. We do it in production. We do it on sets, we do it on prop pieces, we do it on armor. Usually you do need a second person, unfortunately, because it's really hard to do to yourself. Inside, I'm going to pull one pin. I'm going to pull 2 pins. Inside.
Oh no, it's not a grenade.
It's not a grenade. Are hinges.
Just little craft store, hardware store, miniature hinges.
Dollar store.
Dollar store even, yeah.
Right? Because especially since it's pushing against itself. And with 2 of them, it's not going anywhere. And if you want it to pivot, if you've got like an armor piece, and you want it to pivot, just put the one hinge in, Make sure your material here is angled away from it so it doesn't push against each other. And yeah, that's all you do is you put them back together and you take out their original pins because the pins aren't. Make sure you get it the right way around. There we go. Because the pins are not gonna work to the level, you know. And you just get a little piece of metal depending on the size. I just left is right, right is left. Right. See how that's bent? Right? And you bend it so you can easily get it. And then when you put the hinges there.
I think I might be backwards still.
Oh, jeez. On the stage. Doing our best, guys. Right, and you put the hinges together, and it slides in. You can see right now it's kind of sticking out into it, and then you just lay it flat. It disappears inside. Flat the other way, apparently. Same with this side. Put it in, slide it flat. It disappears. Cheap, quick, easy.
Yep.
Solid. Oh, we don't know where the mold stills are. See, we
know where the mold stills are.
Where?
They're in a garage in Mississauga.
Oh.
The joys of 6 moves in the past year and coming back to Ontario.
If you check out our Patreon, we're getting more and more organized, and the Patreon's going to function the way it should very, very soon. Because we have to. Having all these conventions canceled like this has just been really tough on us. Mm-hmm. Really, really tough.
Hey, we can't wait for 2020 to be over.
Now, the Egyptian crown you saw. Oh, this is plaster from the other mold in there. Yeah. Plaster molds are great, but they get powdery over time. But the Egyptian crown, right? And then did a molding, a casting, just like that box one with the one hand prop, right? Split it and kept, in this case, screwed the original. This is just Fimo. Sculpey and Fimo is great for doing this, the originals. Screwed the original out of the box, so we had to hold a pour. And then we just used really cheap fiberglass resin. Now, again, this was many, many years ago. A lot of the options we have today are much safer than fiberglass resin. Not as cheap, but not super expensive either. Fiberglass resin, though, stinks everything up because it's meant to be going on fiberglass sheets, on a vehicle or a boat, but it's super, super cheap. It does bubble easier, so you really have to put a little in, tap a little in, and tap a little in. But that whole crown was awful. It made it really heavy, but the effect was beautiful. Mm-hmm. Again, automotive paints, and one of the we will say to people all the time: ventilation.
Ventilation. You know, if you have a garage to work in, do it. Work with the door open or something. If you have a little patio or a, you know,
yep.
That just wait. Make sure the door to the inside is mostly closed. You know, so you're not getting the fumes going inside. And if you're living in an apartment building, actually even in a house, don't use the bathroom exhaust fan. It's not adequate. And if you're living in an apartment building, it'll stink the rest of your neighbors because the pipes are all connected up, you know, floor to floor. We
had one person say, "I took your advice and it didn't work," and we said, "Well, how did it not work?" Yes. Why didn't you go out on your balcony? Well, you said make sure there's a fan. Yeah, take a fan, grab a box, cut open the one side, paint slowly so you don't get that huge spiral back, cut a small hole in the back, put a filter on it, any filter like an exhaust or
go buy a cheap furnace filter.
And put it over the hole so you don't make a total mess, and stick a cheap fan out the back so it sucks it through, and you'll have no problems. Everyone will smell it, but your neighbors' bathrooms will not be filled with it. Mm-hmm. All right, keep going. I'm feeling the effects of being up all night. You love me, right?
Sorry, yeah, I do love you. I really do.
Here's the thing, folks. I get sick like a guy. He gets sick like a girl.
Yeah.
But I still insist on being there for him. I know. I should just leave him alone next time. Just
let me be sick. Let me, you know.
You're sleeping in the corner with the cats.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we're gonna fill an air mattress so you're not sleeping right on the floor.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And you're gonna go curl up with the kitty cats, and let me sleep tonight, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good.
I love you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, let's keep going. One of the most popular things in the world. We do make things. You know, we do still make things for cosplayers. If you're very, very patient, your quote would be a lot lower than what we would, produce for a convention. Like a pro display, we've done that, like awards and stuff like that, or a production. But you give us time to make it, we'll keep the cost down. But we'll ask you all the right questions, and we'll custom make for you, easy peasy. I just don't sew for people anymore. A lot of things I covered at the beginning. Lightsabers! Yeah, it would help if they're on. You can take yours. Where's the blade? Now these are Saber cord soundboards that you hear. Saber cord soundboard and the super bright LEDs, and so the value of your Saber. There's no point in reinventing the wheel. Companies like Sabercore do make lightsabers, but they also sell you the boards. So if you've already, if you've already found a source where we do a lot of lightsabers too for people that are just the toy boards inside, but they're more authentic lightsabers outside of it, if you can call it authentic. So these are 2 of our 6 lightsabers we use. There's a few of them that are in storage that we're thinking of selling off once we fix them because they got broken. But yeah, so these are lightsabers, as you can see. And we do love the saber cords. The response is nice. Mine's louder than yours.
Yeah. Well,
I got my volume turned up.
That could be it too. I'm trying to change settings.
You have to change settings. So this one cost a fortune for us to make. Part of the reason is, of course, the saber cord board inside are not cheap. They're beautiful boards. We're going to reinvent the wheel if we don't have to. It would cost, you would have to, pay thousands of dollars for us to reinvent this wheel. Mm-hmm. Right?
There's no point.
And these are 200 US, the boards. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So right there, 200 US is gone in the boards. Right? This one we had anodized. I decided not to paint it because I wanted a particular look that is not as easy to get. You can get paint, but where is it? The other way. But the chip factor can be a huge risk. So it's aluminum underneath, and it's anodized. So this is literally a diamond coat. This could be dropped and everything. There's always a risk of this. You can 3D print a cowl like this. Sometimes we cut it out of a tube. We just literally cut the spaces. We just use the NABS tubing and cut the spaces out for the design. Other times you can 3D print it, etc., etc. It doesn't really matter, but this is the most likely to break, especially if the blade isn't in it. Mm-hmm. So I wanted, because I was performing live, especially during parades, on the street, there's a few times this hit the ground. I really didn't want a beautiful blue paint job to be ruined, and I'm very proud of my character, so to speak. Take that, please. Whereas Martin's is also fightable. Oopsie. I don't like your button.
Trigger. It needs to be a spring in that button.
Don't like your button. He's going to have to change that. That's painted. So this is the aluminum, but this is all painted. So far, so good. Again, automotive paints are wonder, but it's aluminum body, so it can be fightable. The rim is painted, so you can see that's the automotive paint, that's the aluminum. No, I had it right. Right, that's the automotive paint, that's the aluminum. It's practically, exactly alike. Now, again, because at the time that I made this one, we were working in production. We were working in a shop for production. We had access to some tools, and one of the tools we had is access to, what are they called now?
Lathe.
No, but it was a certain head on the lathe.
It was actually it was a programmed operation that does threading and tapping, like a screw thread.
So we could screw thread this one. His is a pressure fit. Okay, we're trying to design a push and turn with a spring as an alternative, because the pressure fit will loosen up over time. And again, your battery. The batteries in here are not regular batteries. The problem with certain types of batteries, please be aware, problem with certain types of batteries, if they die, they stay dead. And here, that's the other thing I love about the Sabercore boards. They are tiny. Tiny. So that's why we show you what the insides look like by using mine, not his.
Yep.
Because the more we pressure...
Easier to open hers up.
Yeah. Easier to open and close it. So this is not something we have access to at this time. Now, we can always go to a maker that has one, and we can pay the fee to be there, but again, it's going to up the cost. When you're making it at home, there are so many ways that it can be made. I always recommend, until you learn how to do something like a lightsaber and make it stay together, don't go invest in a Sabercore board. Go buy a discounted or a broken in the junk bin, the Toys R Us, or the toy store nearest you. Find one. Talk people down. Sometimes it's great. You can walk up and go, "This is broken." We've done that at Walmart so many times. Mm-hmm. This is broken, and I only want the guts anyway. And we're getting a $60 toy lightsaber for like $5.
And then we use the parts.
And this is where big chains come in handy for people like us. We just part. Where is my Padme pistol? Since we're on Star Wars. And we're not the only ones that pull apart things and use things. This is the unpainted one. Is your painted one in there?
My painted one is actually with my Jedi.
Your painted one is with your Jedi in the locker. God, this whole locker thing. Folks, we're used to having a 1,700 square foot place and a garage and.
It's like, oh, where's that thing? Oh, it's just in the other room.
We can still build here, we can still create here, but we have to be smart about it. And that's definitely been a challenge. So, does everyone... okay. Does everyone recognize Qui-Gon, the Jedi communicator? It was a lady shaver. They basically took a lady shaver, kept the blade off, put these little pieces in, put gack on, we call it gack, and stuck things to the back and the front. Took a mold just like we did, made a mold of it. You can see where the pour spout was for the mold, right there. So we poured like that. Your biggest detail should be at the bottom so you can use gravity to your advantage. And yeah, we whipped up a bunch of these for ourselves and for other Jedis, and just, yeah. I don't know if we still have the mold, but we still have one that hasn't been painted. We could always make another mold off of this. Every time you make another mold, let's get it micro-sized smaller. But it's so small, it's indiscernible to the human eye.
It's like making a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy of
yeah.
a photocopy. Or Michael Keaton in Multiplicity.
So again, we're going to wait and see if anyone wants to order these or, purchase them, and again, it's the kind of thing we can quote. Yeah. And this is just a 2-part plastic. I can't remember. This wasn't Smooth On. This was another company, but it was years ago.
I can't remember the name now.
Smooth On, folks.
Illuminate?
Was it Illuminate?
Sounds familiar, but I don't even think they exist anymore.
No. Don't get the knockoffs. A lot of their product doesn't so water sensitive, moisture sensitive, air sensitive. Yeah. And speaking of paying for coatings and taking things apart, my Padme pistol. We had this help. What was the process? It's electroplating, but it's a different kind.
It's electroplating you do with metal. Vacuum metallizing you do with plastics, because plastics can't be electrified, right?
So under here is plastics. The drawback with doing this, it is a pressure process. You can't handle it. You have to make sure it's completely cleaned with alcohol. It has nothing to do with COVID. But completely cleaned off, because this stuff won't stick to anything. If you got any finger oil or anything, this stuff won't stick. You get these spirals that look like your fingerprint.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
So I'm talking about personalized, but not necessarily what you.
So again, LED. This is old. It's been beaten up. The speaker doesn't sound like it's in the same place it was when we first made it.
No, it doesn't.
No. Batteries are still going, which is impressive. So all we back then used to find, I'm sure you still can, keychains with all different sound effects in it. And we just took it out of the keychain and ran, a little tiny post at the back of the trigger to that button on the keychain. Right? But you can get a similar effect now. There are better paints that you can get on the market than we could back then, and get a bumper paint. Instead of spending the money, it looks beautiful, but bumper paints out there. Paints that you touch up your bumpers.
Yeah, that's a good point. Pretty Hero was right. The Mandalorian is pretty popular, so we might see more interest in Star Wars commissions.
We would like
Awesome.
that,
Yeah.
because our is more or less shut down.
Yeah, we're
And
just kind of doing this right now.
we've lost 3 shops since the COVID shutdown, and we're not going to charge you guys as much as we would charge a production, because when we build for a cosplayer, hobbyist, or someone who wants to put something on display, we're not answering to the union.
Mm-hmm.
It means we don't get our medical, but we get to stay creative. On the Wings and Things panel tomorrow, we are right now designing, and you'll see it tomorrow because we'll be talking about the difference between the evolution of the backpacks. But we're trying to design some electronics in some ways to do things like butterfly wings that are more conducive to someone bringing it home. When we do things like a lot of costume pieces and wings, we don't think about selling it because we haven't had to. We've been hired on productions. But until this industry picks up that there's work for all of us, we would be happy to build for people again.
Mm-hmm.
That's really a special place for us. Crowns. Did you bring a cut crown?
I don't know if we had one here. Actually. Oh, there is one actually in here.
There is one? Okay.
We're moving our promo. Yeah, it's the rose crown.
Yeah, we have to afford. We wanna get the money together to get Disney Plus so that we can see season 2, because we borrowed a friend's and watched it with them basically for season 1, like the first season of Mandalorian, but we don't have Disney Plus ourselves.
It's the Rosencrantz.
That'll work. Next time we get this opportunity, that locker's a disaster.
That locker needs a major overhaul.
We're not
so
used
we
to
know
living out
where
of
everything
lockers.
is.
This feels so weird, guys. We're doing the best we can. We love you all. I was hoping we had the bigger Game of Thrones crown.
Oh, no.
Eh? Because things like ABS and styrenes can be cut by hand. It's better on a cutter. Be careful with your ABS. It does smoke out your cutter. Laser cutters hate ABS, but we love working with it. ABS is much more solid than styrene and much more efficient and easier to paint and lasts longer. However, it's really bad for your machine. So in production, we use ABS a lot, but we also have much larger machines when we do production. The big industrial machines that are provided in the shops that we work for is a far sight, more impressive than laser cutters that we can have at home. So yeah, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Acrylic is usually a no-no. Acrylic is a yes.
If you're laser.
Lexan is usually a no-no.
Yeah, mostly because it goes an ugly yellow color where it's cut.
But if you're painting it,
If you're painting it, yeah.
or you're willing to sand off the ugly color,
Mm-hmm.
because it is on the surface.
Yeah.
But again, what is good for your smaller home machines that are not as powerful is usually more money too. So budget out your designs, make sure designs fit within designs. We did a crown for him we did a Game of Thrones thing in BC that was kind of Game of Thrones inspired, so we weren't the actual characters. And it was a corporate event type thing, a corporate challenge. And because of that, we wanted to make sure his crown, because he was the king that everyone had to please, was massively big. So we did it like big, huge horn pieces and stuff, and it was all cut flat. And then we heated up. You can heat up plastics safely and slowly. Please experiment with a corner. But we've used paint stripper guns to heat up and form them. We have a toaster oven here that only does plastics and only does Sculpey, and people can do it in their oven. I don't recommend it, especially if you overheat it, because those plastic toxins are staying where your food is going to be cooked. Buy a toaster oven. Keep it small. Our R2D2, there's a good example too. R2 here, we picked up laminate. He was also built many, many years ago. He is no longer operational. He's still in one piece on the outside and sitting in our locker. But his
motors are gone, his batteries are gone, there's some circuitry missing, and things falling apart slowly on the inside.
So we ran him. Boy, did we run him. But his body was, we took the laminate you put on a kitchen counter that takes all the heated pots and stuff like that, and we did 2 large pies, half pies, half moons of wood, and then we spines in between to support it. Then we put the piece of styrene over top of it, and then took a paint stripper gun and just heated it until it matched the top. I recommend, if you're not used to what temperatures will heat up the plastic you're working with, that you put something like a wax paper or tin foil, if you don't mind the inside of your thing with tin foil on it, in case you can't get it all attached, instead of ruining your original form. Mm-hmm. And we just had those heavy glovey the rubber ones, the
silicone elements.
Yeah, because they were new back then and exciting, so we got ourselves and they're much cheaper now and easier to find, thankfully. And we just used that to very gently stroke down the form
until it cooled off and kept the shape.
Yeah, keep gently keeping it down until it cools off, or it will start lifting right back up. Be patient, but you can make a shape out of anything as long as you got something that will stand the heat underneath. And again, we would rather use styrene than an ABS than Worbla any day, because it maintains its shape better after the fact. The other thing about using things like styrene, if you're going to use styrene, it's very light sensitive. Mm-hmm. It goes yellow. Even if it's a white thing, paint it white.
It's yellow and eventually goes brittle too.
Mm-hmm. It starts snapping. So this is thin ABS. Remember, the thinner you get with any plastic, the more likely it is to snap. If this were to hit the ground, it would probably snap all the little rose details. But you can cut it yourself. We've got 2 Celtic crowns that, one was hand cut and one was machine cut. And the difference is almost indiscernible. Just be patient. It's very sharp. We use medical blades. We use scalpel blades. We don't use X-Acto blades. But there are X-Acto blades that are now coming out. X-Acto is releasing a whole bunch of pro blades. So if you go to a really good hobby store and you're willing to spend the money, get yourself some pro blades, because it'll make a cutting job like this a lot easier. Draw out the design with a paint or a white marker or something. Will stay on the plastic. We've done chalk pencils before, but it's a hellish thing to clean up. We've done white styrene with the pen transfer, the papers that you used to do for carbon copies, the carbon papers. But you got to be careful, because if you touch it too much, it'll smudge. So there are ways to do it, but mark your design and carefully cut it, or bring it to someone who has a cutter. Now this, on the other hand, I wish we had the original styrene version. I was going to pull it off, because once we made this one, we didn't see any point in keeping it. But like we said, certain little teeny weeny bits get brittle. So it's now in pieces, and to glue it back together doesn't make sense. This is a lovely process we love to do in production, because you can get this great kind of hammered look to the metal. Again, artist plasticine, and a flat sheet of plastic, just a piece of ABS that was slowly being destroyed. And we sat there, and I sculpted out. I didn't sculpt the whole thing, because that was way too long. I sculpted out one section. Right? Then I took a mold of the section. I took a mold of the plasticine, flat, put a little box edge around it, right? So now I had a mold. Then I poured with leftover plastic that we didn't give a damn if it worked out right or not. Stuff that's been sitting on the shelf, because even that stuff has shelf life. And it was a smooth-on, 2-part plastic, and we weren't going to use it anymore. Production had already paid for it. It was just sitting around the shop. We looked at the head of the shop and said, "Ours?" And they went, "Yeah." Most of the things,
anyway.
most of the things you will see, and I'll even say it tomorrow, a lot of the Maleficent wing stuff is left over from making the Atom suit. We are such a wasteful industry. We throw out so much. But that's okay, because people like Martin and I go, "Hey, we want to learn a new technique. We'll take it. We want to make another cosplay and see if we can do this. We'll take it," because it's already been paid for by the production. And if it stays on that shelf too long, it doesn't get used for something else, it's going to go off and it'll be useless. So made one mold, one casting, then another casting, until we had equivalent to his head. Right? This is one of the biggest mistakes too, is crowns are oval, folks, not round. Your head is not round. As you can see, Martin's is kind of warped.
Mine's far from round. Mine's oblong.
Oblonged. So there are many, many, many ways to figure out. It's not just the measurement of your head, but there are many, many ways to figure out the shape of your head. Everything from, I've seen people put like a really thin, shower cap, whatever, over top of their heads, and then they take plasticine. But you have to be careful, because when you take it out, right? So they'll put a strip of plasticine, make it nice and flat, and then put a piece of plaster around the outside and let it dry, because the plaster won't stick to the plasticine. That's a little too big, so make sure when you do your form, you make it a little small so it actually does fit your head. I've seen people use paper mache to get their head. I've seen anything. Just make sure, if it's going to stick to your head, that you protect your hair, please. And no, that's not why he goes thin on top.
That's right. Nothing to do with that. Nothing at all.
When we did a positive of his face many years ago, it took his eyebrows with him. It was great. So.
I gotta get myself some water.
Yeah. Your tummies.
There, or?
I don't have any. Oh, yes, I do.
You do? Yeah.
Oh, I do. I didn't know that. It's right there. So, once we had enough sections butted up against each other, we poured, we made a box again, and we poured a one-piece mold. Then we took a piece of wood, and we created the piece of wood shape of his head. Right, so we'd have something to pull around it. Right, and we built it up so it would be at least the height, half the height of the final. And then we did something called green polling. There's another term for it too, isn't it?
I can't remember what the other term is.
It's when it goes green.
Yeah, it's like working with clay, right? For anyone who's done everything, green clay is still soft, right? It's pliable, but it's in the process of setting.
So that's what we did. We poured the 2-part plastic, one that was new. We got a smaller supply that was, fresh and new, so we knew it would be just enough, and it would go on at the timing we needed to and not have all the issues. And then we poured it in the larger mold, and while it was half set and still flexible, we picked up the mold, because it was a rubber mold, so it was flexible, and we carefully, keeping it in the mold, pushed it around the shape of his head. And voila! Mr. has a crown that fits.
There we go. Now it's centered.
Right? So we painted it with gold automotive paint to get that gold look, and to make it pop and not have to spend a lot of money on gold leafing, we just very lightly gold leafed. We put Vaseline on the stones so that and the stones there's one that I left partially open. The stones were glued in from the back. And then all it takes is a little pour of plastic or poly or something, and you can see it's nice and smooth over here. But we left this one so you guys can see. We just made sure there was holes in the mold, right? So what we did was we, once again, Vaseline to protect it, all the stones, and then over here, there we go. and then just gold leaf the upper levels, leaving the bottom levels the gold spray paint. Okay. So you have to be patient with gold leafing. We don't like using gold leafing in productions unless someone really does want to foot the bill, because half of your gold leaf is going to go bye-bye anyway. It'll either fly off, or a little of the glue will get on your brush, and it'll stick to the brush, and then it's useless, etc., etc., etc. I see we're missing a stone, honey.
It's over here.
It is? Okay. We should glue it on so it doesn't disappear. You know, glues.
Glue.
Most popular glues. Do your gorilla face.
Gorilla Glue.
We love Gorilla Glue. We used to E everything. E6000 was the heaven of glue in the 80s and into the 90s. But in the last few years, Gorilla has surpassed. We use Gorilla double-side tape. We use Gorilla gel if you don't, if you're not trying to get into little details or you don't want it to run into a detail next to it. The gel is perfect. There's the more liquidy Gorilla Glue that if you're trying to get in between things and you can't, you're holding something in place and you're trying to get it to flow in, Gorilla Glue has so many options now. We used to do a lot of resin bond, which is kind of like a liquid, and then we just and we would just.
Resin bond is good for things like acrylics and ABS. What it does is it dissolves the material and bonds it back together again.
Mm-hmm. So it merges it. It basically merges it. So Gorilla Glue, we've had lots of luck with it. The resin bond, there's another name for it.
The actual
formal.
chemical
Yeah.
term is
He remembers this stuff more often than me.
methylene chloride.
Okay. You'll find it a lot in hobby stores. The big problem with it is if you use too much, your whole project just goes to goo. Yeah. It never completely sticks back together. And we had volunteers.
It takes forever for it to harden again.
Yeah. Well, you saw that bridge that was in the video the moment ago. We had a lot of volunteers to help us finish it. A lot of volunteers. And it was originally in the 70s, and we had to pull it apart and save what we could of the original bridge and completely put it back together. So we had to update it for the convention to be able to put it on because, fire regulations, so all that you're looking at, that's all been, everyone was handed a syringe, told not to stab themselves, and a container of resin bond. And everyone was told, this is the box you're doing, this is the lighting box you're doing, this is the lighting box, we have only this much time, and if Martin and I do it alone, we need that much time. It's not going to happen. So much time that went behind the video. So we had some people...
Like one-armed fisherman.
One-armed fisherman, that's right. We had so many people get overexcited about the glue because they were in such a rush and they wanted to make sure everything stayed together that half the boxes, the first time we got the bridge back out with the new lighting system and everything, half the boxes fell apart. Mm-hmm. They just had no stability because way too much glue was used. Martin and I spent half the weekend that first time out with more pieces of styrene, fixing boxes
from the back, yeah.
Between when the convention closed and when it opened the next morning, plus all the obligations we had. That was an interesting weekend.
Talk about the no sleep there, yeah.
Yes. Well, we wanted the volunteers to feel good. Mm-hmm. So we just went about our own business. They got overexcited. I love the enthusiasm. Fixers. Yeah, I love the enthusiasm. That was scary. Blades, because you see a batleth. Yeah. Is my batleth in storage? Yeah. Oh, damn. Can I have a steel blade?
Actually, I've got upstairs.
And a foam blade.
The foam blade is far buried, unfortunately, but the closest we have is that little plastic axe there.
I can't wait till COVID is over.
Oh, no.
Oh, the axe. Just axe me. Okay. Just axe me. Things that are considered weapons. Things that are considered weapons. Conventions, especially these. Believe it or not, security more often do not throw a steel blade down the stairs. That would defeat what I'm about to say.
Safety first.
We have a little tiny loft that we just stash things in. So the thing with blades is there's been a lot of weapon stuff that has gone wrong. The thing with women and weapons, and it's because I experience this more than Martin's, I'm basing it on personal experience, is he'll be left alone if he has a sword on his hip. The likelihood of him being stopped by security, even if it's peace bonded or not peace bonded, the likelihood is less. Which is why we always go to get our weapons peace bonded together. Why? Not 100% sure. I've been trying to figure it out. But I was in a discussion with another cosplayer. We think, ladies think, that it's simply because women tend to be more jumpy on average. We're more protective, we're more prone to fear or overcompensating for fear or being in denial. We're not brought up playing with weapons. So instinctually we tend to do stupid things. Now, that doesn't get rid of the guys that obviously make the news every time they do something stupid, but that's because...
The overcompensators?
Yeah. But that's because they got away with it, and they got away with it because security let them through. No one questioned them. So it's a 6 in one, half a dozen in the other. So ladies, please, always design a weapon so it can be peace bonded, whether it's real or not. Always go check in with the peace bonding, and always make sure you're dedicated and calm and secure. Don't get into cat fights, don't get into spats, don't get into issues. Please. Even if it's a replica gun, it's still technically a weapon. Treat it respectfully, and let's keep us clear. And the idiot males, I mean the idiots, not this one. The idiots, not this one. He's not an idiot. Anyway, I'm digging you deeper in.
You're digging me in, yeah.
I do love you.
I know.
I'm the one who's trained to sword fight for. Actually, I'm training him.
That's
I'm
true.
retraining him
Yeah.
all over again. He hasn't fought in years, but I no longer have my fight partner. Is the video over?
Yeah, the video's over.
We really went at it. It's actually, oh yeah, video is over. Okay. It's actually easier to lose track of time when you do it this way
It is, yeah.
than it is when you're on a stage and someone's at the back of the room going,
Someone's at the back going, wrap it up, wrap it up.
well, I think we spent half our time trying to get things in camera.
Trying to sort things out, yeah.
So, I always recommend plastic when you can. Even if you have to buy something plastic, fake paint it. Sit down and faux paint it. You can take sandpaper to plastic to give it a texture. Don't overdo it because you'll go right through. If you do go right through, buy a piece of styrene or whatever, patch it up, make it part of it, right? But I always recommend plastic. Go get a piece bond at the second to the event or convention. Right away, every convention seems to have a slightly different version of what piece bonding is. I don't like the little ribbon indicator. If something's a potential weapon, tie it in.
Yeah.
Tie it in. If anyone wants
Make
to go do
it
photo
not
shoots, go out into a property that's public, like the lawn in the back or the park down the street. Go out of the way or go into an official photo area. Strap. Make sure you have extra straps to re-piece bond it.
Yeah. And any good convention should have security people by the photo area with new straps for peace bonding.
Yes, exactly. I took my weapon out for my photos. That's that, right?
As much time as we need.
I'm overheating.
It's kind of warm. I think I'm generating a fair bit of heat right now myself.
So I think we won't redo the panel tomorrow.
No.
And we'll apologize as many times as we want because I know we're not worthy. Yes, as things pass, we'll get better and better at it all over again. Right?
We get ourselves more reorganized.
Because we'll take time right now. And by the way, people, if you share this video, help the convention out. Share it from the point you want people to see. And I encourage Pretty Heroes to put that up at the bottom of every video, in the title, whatever, somewhere where people will see it. Share it from the point that you want people to see. So people don't have to sit through the points that you're not trying to make. Right? Because that'll be boring for them. Because we won't be here to answer questions. Right? So always share the point you want people to see. You can do that. That's what I do love about YouTube. You used to not be able to do that. I used to have to tell people, go to this exact point. YouTube's come really far. I'm impressed.
Yep.
Oh, gee, now can we slow down a little?
Well, let's catch up a bit.
Plastic or foam, right?
Some really good foam swords out there nowadays.
Now, foam swords, if you want to make one, for example, this is an aluminum blade, okay? But it's still metal, okay? This is still metal. In production, we use aluminum a lot, and you can cut your own aluminum blade if you have patience. Make sure you have the right blade to cut it with, and make sure it's constantly lubricated. A lot of oil or water. We prefer oil.
Yeah.
So that you don't destroy your blades. But we cut the ones we made for Ed and Lilith for their
For their orcs?
for their orcs.
Yeah.
What blade was that?
That was using just an electric jigsaw, cordless jigsaw with a metal blade in it. So
It is an actual metal.
finer tooth, yeah.
Okay, so don't use a wood blade, I think is what we're trying to say.
Yeah.
Now, you say you've got something like this, you made it, you don't want to confiscate it, you don't want to run the risk. It's the same molding process. The thing about most blades is front and back are the same. Right? And you can even, if you put the handle on afterwards, like you should, full tang, always cut a full tang, right? Make your mold before so that you get the tang as well. And mold and your handle separately. So what you do is you use the same 2-part rubber you saw for my horns, and you make a mold of it, and you bring to the convention the weapon you don't care if they steal, just pour another one. And that way, if they want to confiscate it, they can. And like I said, there's so many more options now than years ago when we were doing a lot of this earlier stuff. A lot of that stuff was left behind when we moved to BC too. We don't even have those samples anymore. But no, when you're doing things like this, there are now a lot of rubber spray paints and vinyl spray paints that work beautifully on top of any flexible material. That's basically what they're using on the ones you buy in the stores. You know, but this is aluminum. We use aircraft aluminum in production a lot because it's really lightweight.
And it's than regular aluminum. There's so many grades, but the more commonly available.
Yeah, those batless were made years ago out of standard aluminum, and they are all chewed up. They are so chewed.
It's soft.
You know, it doesn't work as well. The aircraft aluminum will last you longer. The problem with aircraft aluminum, any kind of aluminum for that matter, and this is why we use it in production a lot, it's light, but the sound is horrible. It ting, 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 tings for the first little while, and it's a beautiful sound. It just rings through the blade. But once you use it, the metal actually starts stretching a little. So you go from ting, 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 ting to clunk, 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 clunk. And in live performance, people want clunk, 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 clunk. So if you don't mind cutting a new aluminum blade every time you go out and do something, that's great. But productions don't care because the sound guys go, hey, those are, they're going clunk, 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 clunk. We want them to go ding, 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 ding.
We'll just add that in. We'll fix it in post.
Just fix it in post. So yeah, that's why we use it a lot in production because it's really light. These, on the other hand, actual fighting steel blade. Try not to touch it because I don't want to clean it. Please, please, we beg you, as prop makers, as professionals, as lovers and co-supporters of other cosplayers, do not bring to a convention your wall-hanging steel blade.
Surefire way to get it confiscated.
Okay?
You would get it back at the end of the weekend, but then there was no point in bringing it with you.
Yeah. Okay? If you've got certificates, if you've got your fight, degrees, if you've got something that you can prove to them and let them tie it completely into your scabbard, showing your willingness, okay. But you're a cosplayer. Okay. Now we get away with a little bit. You look at this video up here in the corner, that's a real steel blade, and yes, that's at a convention. But again, we've been going to that convention since the beginning. We've been in it for a very long time. The people who are running it know us very well. We checked with security first. The moment we got off stage, we went straight into the photo area, and then once we were done with formal photos, we walked right to security and said, time to tie it back in. A lot of times, they let us tie it back in because we know how. And that's how we get away with it. Just because you see it doesn't mean you're going to get away with it. Please be respectful. Those security guys have huge jobs. Make a mold of this.
Yeah, agreed. No metal weapons at conventions. We like to avoid accidents.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And even accidents due to somebody's panic because they saw someone with a metal weapon.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I always bring my aluminum, elven blade, but again, I check with security. I've had security go, just let me put a ribbon on that. And I'm like, no, I'm tying it in with your observation. Because I don't want a stupid little ribbon saying that I'm okay. Because someone can still grab it. I train all my actors when we do live events that if you have any weapon on your hip, whether it's metal or not, we always walk around with our hand resting on it. If you've got something on your hip, you never take your left hand, or your right if you're left-handed swing, off your pommel. It stays there at all times. If it's not there because you needed that hand for something, you make sure your body is turned so that the person next to you is someone you know.
Between you and them.
Okay? Please don't be foolish, folks. It's not worth the cosplay to be foolish. Okay? Now, the thing with steel, too, is it's extremely heavy. So unless you're used to using it, you're going to only be in pain in your lower back. Okay? On top of that, I've had actors complain, I've been wearing my sword all day. Yes, I told you. We have a paid gig. We're doing the gig.
Yep.
Oh, but my back hurts. I told you. Do sit-ups every morning and you'll be fine.
You gotta be prepared for it.
So, when it comes to steel blades as well, they're heavy, they're cumbersome. A lot of people will take steel blades off the wall, and what they are is they're not stainless steel. They're basically coated and poured. Poured steel blades are not safe, even if you're home. If you're at home, being an idiot, okay? Because all it takes is one air bubble, and you can split that sucker in half.
Yeah.
We never use steel blades unless they are American Fight Association certified or Canadian Fight Association certified. They're both acceptable in North America.
And they're good quality, high carbon forged steel, as opposed to poured.
This is a $500 blade, and that was years ago when I started this character. Okay, don't. And if you chip the coating on the outside, the blade underneath, if it gets even a bit of moisture, will start rusting and deteriorating underneath the coating. And again, the coating will be weakened. You'll have rust all over the outside of your blade, and you'll be confused. And the damn thing's gonna snap. At some point, it's gonna snap. Just don't swing them. They're designed to hang on a wall. You want to swing? Invest in this and invest in insurance.
Mm-hmm.
It costs a lot of money to even have one of these usable and be safe. Now, you'll notice I'm resting it on the back of my hand, so I'm going to have to clean this part of the blade, because that's the other thing with steel. Even your fingers can rust the metal. Any bit of oil from your skin, any bit of contact or handling. So when someone says, is that a real blade? I say, yes, trust me. I'm not pulling it out and letting you touch it.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't have a sharp edge, this one's been chewed up quite a bit from all the years of use. It doesn't look it until you get really close to it. But again, your skin as well as a sharp blade. Please, folks, please be smart. If you've talked to a convention ahead of time, like I always talk, because I always bring at least one of these for the panel to show people this is a no-no, and then it gets put away right after and goes right back to the hotel room. Yeah. Just don't. If those of us who have the certification and the insurance don't, then please, players don't. Make a mold, make a casting, pour a rubber one, or go aluminum and talk to the convention ahead of time. If they're still uncomfortable with aluminum is very flexible too. I mean, it's but it's fairly flexible, right? If they're okay with you doing it, tie it in when you're around and it's in the scabbard, and be smart, be safe. Also, if you're wearing even an empty scabbard, please stop resting your hand here, because you see what happens. You wind up hitting people, right? Make sure your hanging is as straight as possible. The way it hangs off your belt, make sure you design it so it's as straight as possible. And we use ABS for the inside of our scabbards as well. Simply, oh, and if you want your aluminum to look more like steel, just sandpaper it, or clean it with a pad or something. But yeah, we cut ABS for the inside of these. We don't use wood. We don't have to be historically accurate, and the ABS lasts longer.
It doesn't retain moisture like wood would.
And you just wood.
Like wood does.
If you can put leather on the outside and you want the same look that I've got here, we found a brown leatherette vinyl fake leather curtain at a Walmart that one of the employees had put the security right through the middle of the corner of the curtain. They can't sell that. It's got a big hole in it now, and we noticed it. So we pulled it off the shelf, went up to customer service and said, "You can't sell it as a curtain. Give it to me for 50% off and I'll take it." They did.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't take much. Frugal. And that's plastic too. In case it was sandpapered to get the rough effect, and then automotive painted. You can see you can kind of see the texture. I should have turned that down. There. And that's what makes the eye think it's real. It's plastic. Oh, I guess the little daggers aren't here, are they?
Nope. We have the staff.
Ah! Speaking of possible weapons.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my god, my Maleficent staff has been piece-bonded so many times. I'd like to make more of these for people and sell them as well, because I had so much fun making it. But I want to see the 3D printer we got secondhand. I want to see if it can do the orb, which means we need like a semi-see-through yellow, a semi-see-through green, a semi-see-through blue, because right now the plastic I used for this is actually pretty brittle. There is a crack that I put in some extra vine work to hide the crack, but it's two of the clear Easter egg shells glued together, and then this is all caulking. Again, please watch the smell. This is all brown caulking, as in window caulking.
And make sure it's latex caulking, because the silicone caulking you can't paint.
That's right. So what I did was use plastic knives and spoons. The stuff doesn't stick to it, so you can just lather it on. All the little knots are just my thumb being pushed. Right? You can see it's worn off here because that's where the button is for the light. Right? So it wears off. So every once in a while I take some and I just foam brush very lightly with the different shades of brown. Just go over top to get that nice texture and look. The reason I love my Maleficent staff, and I say this to security all the time, I always go up to security and go, "You're going to want to piece bond this." And they're like, "Yeah, but that's a stick, that's a staff, that's dangerous." I'm like, "Yeah, but it's plumbing pipe. It is so soft. It is so flexible. You can't really hurt anyone with this."
Ow, 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 ow. I mean it. Ow. Ow.
Make a little more, like a long one. Give me a long one. Oh yeah, you're getting better. You're healing. That was last night, except your hand was here.
Yeah. But we're good.
I like doing things like this for people and quoting these, because if you're not going to rush me, I get so crafty, and each one is so individual and so different. Now, of course, I'll warn you that wherever your hand is will wear off. And it's just a matter of getting a little. I'm actually thinking of buying little jars of the appropriate paint.
Oh yeah, so you can do touch-ups on her.
Sending it with it.
Mm-hmm.
Paint and little brush, like a little foam brush, and so they can touch it up when they want to. And you can see there's very little profile there too, because I want to be able to grip it nicely. But with this, basically, the battery is not there yet. Martin, do we have a charged battery?
We do. We don't have the ones that fit that, because that was the one we had. We couldn't find.
Well, that's why we're going to make a new one.
Right.
Because the battery we originally, like the Earth Final Conflict props, those batteries don't exist anymore. So I want to make myself a new one and then modify this one to take a different kind of battery or something.
Because the trick is getting a long, skinny battery that'll fit up the inside.
Yeah.
So here we have, this is not a long battery, but it is the same connector and the same volt.
So the next make
Lights coming on?
Yes.
I think on.
Yes,
There we
it's
go.
on. It's burning my hand.
Burning.
But normally it'd just be pressure fit. It would tuck up inside. But as you can see, it's pretty bright. We're really happy. These super bright LEDs are still more money than regular LEDs, but they're still cheaper than they were back then. I'm seeing green spots.
I'm seeing green spots too.
Yeah, there you go. So when I put the green contact
feel like
lenses
a green
in,
spot
everything
right
gets
now.
greener. And we'll bring this back out tomorrow too, and possibly if we can find the
Oh,
wizard
we get
staff.
a wow, cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If we find the wizard staff, because I think that broke in
yes.
the trip across country. We're slowly fixing
we
things.
Get the wings from the locker. We'll get the wizard staff.
Right now, our K9 is in this little unit underneath our work table, because he's the next thing we need to fix. He did not make the move well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, his neck and his head and his ears, snap, snap, snap. Just horrible.
Bouncing around in the back of a truck.
Yeah.
For 5 days.
And hopefully we'll have a new webpage with a, what is it, Shopify?
Yeah.
The Canadian
Shopify
government
store.
for artists and
Small business.
small businesses, like they're supporting some food stuff and stuff like that. It has given grants to a web company to design simple pages that work with Shopify. And since our page kind of went down, our social media is the best place to find us, but since our page went down, we applied for the program and we get to have a lovely conversation on Monday to see what things will, and whether or not we get that final paperwork saying whether or not we got approved, and be to get a new web page with the Shopify. And the goal is to sell off the samples or the first tries and accept quotes, quotes, and keep going, keep our brains going, because if COVID takes us down, we got a problem.
Oh,
You know, you want to unplug it? I saw you want to. I know you want
I'm good.
it.
I'm good.
You're good?
I'm good.
You sure?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. You know I don't believe you, right? What do we have here at this point? Because there is more.
There is more. I've done a pretty good length panel so far.
See, yeah, we used to sell these a lot too. I don't know where the mold went. Oh yeah, an open mold. You guys can do open molds are the easiest molds in the world. I don't know where for the. We used to be part of CAG many moons ago, and we were known for belt buckles. And again, this is just fiberglass resin, dirt cheap, but stinks to high heaven. Please don't use this stuff indoors. And even then, outdoors, it can affect your brain. There are newer products since I may want to remold this if we can't find the mold. Again, if more people are doing Klingon and want it. But basically, it's this kind of thing, right?
Here's a small open mold.
You glue. I got a mold.
Oh, you got an open mold? Oh. No.
Oh, yeah. Do you have the plastic for it?
No, it's a different one, isn't it? We may not have that one anymore.
Oh my God. That's the Banting.
That's the Banting. The USS Banting.
The USS Banting. Guelph?
Guelph, yeah.
How long ago was it?
That's got
I'm
almost 30 years ago.
I'm feeling old. And these techniques are still valid.
Mm-hmm.
See, the USS Banting had a unique pin that they wanted done, but they didn't want to spend a hell of a lot of money and get it metal, poured and everything. And
basically incorporate all the designs of the Delta shield up until that time period.
So we cut it out of styrene, each piece, and glued it down. A resin bond, so it nice and merges, and there's no spaces underneath, so there's nowhere the mold material. And I don't know where the mold is, but we basically did the same thing for these, because when we worked for Paramount, we had our pins, right? But the pins that were commercially available were too shiny, so they showed up with these big glossy things in photographs. So we cut out the shape and size, and we rounded everything appropriately. And then we just made an open mold, which, you know, where was the other one? I get it back to you. But yeah, so that would have had walls around it, and it would look, sometimes we use lids and stuff. Did I put it down? There it is. Sometimes we use lids that exist, you know, anything before it goes into recycle, and then you just glue it down. And yeah, you just leave the top open, so when it comes out, make sure you do, oh hey!
Star Wars.
Here. The walls have come off because they've over time, but there would have been walls around, right? Just a box. There's, oh, yep, there, right? And there's the mold. So this is the kind of thing, if you're doing, you know, if you're doing a Rebel Alliance thing or an Imperial thing and there's a group of you and you call us up, apparently we still have this mold. Mm-hmm. Well, they do deteriorate over time. This one's getting a little bit rough around the edge.
But the lucky thing is we have the pattern, so we can always make a new mold from the actual pattern.
So yeah, give us a call. We'll whip up a bunch, and all you do is glue, you know, glue pins or buttons or loops or, oh, there's one poured.
Clear, there it is. Rebel Alliance.
Right? Oh yeah, see? There's the plastic version. This is, again, these are part of, most of the tricorder is gone now, but we kept some of the pieces just so we can show you guys. So that again is the styrene, hand cut, hand created, but we had to make a bunch of them for cast. So we did a mold that's a 2-part mold. I don't see it in there, so either it's completely deteriorated or it got lost in the move. But we made a 2-part mold, which is where you basically, Martin can describe it for a moment. Describe
Actually,
a 2-part mold.
We have one in here.
Oh, here.
We have the phaser.
Do we?
We have the phaser 1.
We have the phaser 1 in there, okay. And you can see the little pour spout we accounted for on this one. Again, we colored, we tend to paint things with primer lightly before we take a mold. That way we can see whether or not we missed a sanding spot or a detail is showing that'll show up in the mold and get a chance to fix it, right? Oh,
we got the phaser 1.
There we go. There's a 2-part mold. So there's the original plastic.
Again, hand cut, handmade.
Right. And then front piece for the bottom. And then the battery compartment, because we made them so they work. Because we were doing promos. And then you can see that's, right. 2-part molds are fun. So they sandwich together. And you make sure you put little, doesn't sandwich
basically,
together as well.
Yeah, not as much. Well, also not with the originals in there anymore, right? But,
you can see there's teeny tiny little pour spouts. Make sure you have one of them as an air spout, so that you know it's that displacement, right?
If you have something going in, you need to have something coming out, or you end up with all the trapped in weird places in the mold, where there's a spot that might trap air. You're gonna make sure that there's a vent coming out of that.
And this is how we do it in production. You can do it at home. There's a lot of techniques we use in production that can also be done at home. I'm gonna put it this way so you can see. Basically, a box is created. And if you've got spaces like between the battery compartment and, you know, you put either scene in there or something so that, you know, when you make this box and you pour, it doesn't get into those spaces. Then you let it basically half set, so to speak, right? Because you get the other half, right? And then you clean out all the blocks that you did on all the spaces where the stuff could pour in that you don't want it to go in. And then you make another box, or some people just make a super tall box. I like making 2 boxes so I can visually do it. And then you pour the other half, right? You just pour the other half. Right? So it's you can do it at home. It's finicky, and like I said, it's fussy. I can't even remember the company that did this molding compound. This one was the good one. The green one deteriorates really fast.
Yeah, the green one was actually one made by Dow Corning, and that was really early on in the whole technology of 2-part silicone mold making. So it was an industrial version, whereas all the stuff that's smooth on carries has been basically it's been tested and foolproofed. So they got all the techniques worked out and tutorials and everything else. Whereas the green stuff we used way back then, if you were off by like 1% in the mix ratio, it didn't go off. It'd stay sticky or just never completely cure.
Wow, that's a laser in pieces.
Oh yeah.
Again, way back when, for all you Canadian friends. That's fine. That shouldn't have been in there, but that's fine. We did Bob and Dot, and we did a lot of paper mache because we had like no money. Oh, there's one of the pins. Here. Of course, you use automotive paints, so it looks like metal, but it's not so shiny that when the camera flash goes off, you don't see it in the photos. We did Bob and Dot, and we decided to do the van braces out of paper mache. We did dirt cheap, and that's what we wound up doing. It's kind of died over the years, but we used a couple pieces of elastic inside to create a hinge and a little bit of Velcro to close it. And you know how Bob's got that textured look on his van brace? We went out, and it's just wrapping paper, and we cut it into little strips, so we got the same textured look. Dirt cheap. And again, this is a great kind of thing you can do with the kids. And that's just styrene cut, and can't remember where we got the dome. We cut it off.
That was from one of those clear ornaments.
Yeah.
From Michael's.
And we carefully cut it.
Or was it from White Rose back in the day?
Oh my God. We used to do a lot of ornament shopping at White Rose.
Yeah. White Rose is one of those craft supply stores that predates Michael's. Like they went out of business ages and ages ago, and then Michael's sort of moved in and took over the market.
Yeah, see, there's again the same thing. Klingon trifoil. We wanted everything to show up on camera, so we made everything metallic with a flat. Oh.
Mm-hmm. Oh. You got it? They're in there, aren't they?
Yep.
This one she's bringing out was a lot of fun to do. Often we have an opportunity to make stuff for productions that we work on, and you have to make 2 different versions of something. So the original Hero one, these are vampire steaks. The original Hero one.
It was a really campy vampire movie. I don't even remember what it was called. Long ago.
Death Blood or something like that, or Blood Wish, or who knows. So the original, the Hero one, which is the one that's good for all the close-ups and everything, was actually carved out of wood. And it was getting a little bit of stain, a little bit of highlighting and everything. And then we had to make a retractable one that could be plunged into the vampire's chest. So it's made out of plastic. It's got a big plunger spring down the center of it. And Christina spent a little bit of time with the Hero one, matching it every side, all the little grain details, all the little knots.
Those there. Yeah. Sorry, this way. Those are those there, right? And the bigger knots. Here. Yeah, it was fun. To get a wood effect, or any kind of texture, natural texture effect, you take your plastic after you build your item, and you spray paint it whatever the dominant color is. Now this is faded over the years. It was the exact same color, but
I think
it's
these
faded.
have gotten darker. Wood
Has
gets
it?
a little darker.
No, but it also phases. It phases as it ages. So 6 of one, half a dozen the other.
They're slowly drifting from each other, tonally.
So you take your dominant color, you spray paint your dominant color, and then you take like a nail and you just scratch away. You just organically, don't think about it, don't make it too perfect. Little scratches, big scratches, whatever. And those scratches is when you put down the next paint, the next color. When you put it down, you just let it partially and then wipe it all off. And that's how you get your little textured scratches. And then you take a slightly different color brown, you put it here and there. And then the knots are literally a finger. I'm just, just making all these.
She puts a little bit of herself in everything she does.
I do. I use my fingers a lot for organics. Now, don't even think it. Don't go there. Don't go there. Don't go there. So I'm gonna get him to hold the dangerous one.
Yeah, this is the one that doesn't.
Now, unfortunately, the spring over the years is weakened.
Really pokey, even though it's not
So-
sharp.
If we wanted to use this again, we'd have to get inside and take care of the spring, because you can see it's not completely lining up. Usually it bounces completely back up nice and tight. And this edge again has cracked over the years. I mean, this was so long ago, but it's just, right? And again, if the spring was not worn out, right, it wouldn't need gravity. It would just do that up. And of course, you make sure the actor or yourself, you know, when you're doing things, especially on video, you put your hand over top where the crease is, and it looks good. So yeah, you can get almost any natural finish out of fake, you know, out of fake plastics. This is my favorite thing to do, by the way.
You know you want to do that.
All right, fine. I've had it with you. You'll never get sick again. I'll solve this.
Paul Rubens' death scene.
You had to tell them? You don't think they can figure it out themselves? Oh, did I get your nipple?
A little bit.
He wonders why I don't take him seriously when he actually does get hurt.
Count Dracula, can you tell us on the doll where she stabbed you?
Yeah, you're fine. You're good. Slush molds.
Slush molds. No, we're not talking about like cool desserty treats, you know, cool fruity flavored desserty treats.
No, gold.
Gold. Oh, there were desserty treats in there? Ew.
We had to make a whole bunch of these for Stargate. Just to keep 2 of them for ourselves. But it's the Gould symbiote. Oh, there's money in here, right? The Gould symbiote, and it's because of the rubber lining started deteriorating. That was the thing about BC too, because it's right on the ocean. The salt air would make things deteriorate faster. But yeah, it's a slush mold in order to make it empty, because no one cares about what it looks like inside, only that it works. So the original, you know, was because a 2-part mold on something like this is just too ridiculous, too difficult. So the head is solid, right? So the head was a mold, and poured in. You can see we put little indicator marks on the bottom. So, you know, which one goes with which one. There's a little patch on the bottom of it while it's still slightly damp. And then for the bottom, in order to make it empty inside, is you put it in the mold, right? You pour it into the mold, and you sit there, and it's boring as hell.
Rotating hard.
Right? And then you're guessing it when it's settled. Right there. That's noisy. We keep money in these. And then the rubber inside started deteriorating. There we go. There's your pay for today.
26 cents.
Yeah. There's another dime in here. If you want to earn it, you're gonna have to dig it. But
dig it.
and then once we got it out, we cut the hole to match, you know, the bottom of the head, and then we put a sealing rubber inside, because it's just, you know, that nice plaster look. So the type of plastic we use is not really waterproof. And then we put a black rubber inside, and we pour it in, and we cap this off. You know, you tape it shut, and you just
Same thing.
and cross your fingers. And then once your shirt's set, you leave it about 12 to 24 hours, and then you throw it in there and sit and stare at it to see whether or not you succeeded. There was what, at least a dozen of these? And then there was the solid ones that weren't openable. We gave 2 of those to Chris for letting us stay at his place. So yeah, there was like a dozen of these. So we kept the 2 that were empty, and we gave our friend Chris, because he's one of the places we crashed at. We gave Chris solid ones as a gift. So yeah, these are off the Stargate set, and it's funny because, you know, some productions almost throw things out. Do you want to tell them the horrible what happened to the Stargate while I put this away?
Ah, yes, the one Stargate. That was one of the possibly one of the most tragic things that happened at the end of the show, when Stargate was wrapped. Hey, there's us in the SGC. When Stargate was wrapped, the producers in LA, like MGM, were negotiating with the Smithsonian to have the SG-1 Stargate dismantled carefully and sent down to the Smithsonian to be put in the I guess the pop culture, science fiction, whatever. Not the Air and Space Museum, but there's one there dedicated to a lot of like pop culture kind of things. And 10-year run of the series, and parts of this gate were from the original movie gate as well, from the Stargate movie. That was going to be set up at the Smithsonian to be admired by people from around the world. Well, while this negotiation was happening between LA and Washington, the producers in Vancouver had to get out of the studios. They didn't want to pay any extra money on the rent for the rental of the studios, so they hired a demolition to come in and cut the thing to pieces and throw it in the dumpster.
Not even us.
Not even us.
Not even.
No, not even anyone who would have cared about the project.
That was very upsetting.
So it was heartbreaking.
You know, producers you don't think. But the past is the past, and if we want to rebuild it one day, we will.
Exactly.
Right.
We almost have a high enough ceiling.
Cheap, easy props. Again, please be careful when you're at conventions or out in public. That was a dollar store cap gun that we converted. We did about a dozen of these and converted them to look real, just using paint jobs and highlights and lowlights. That was a stage show production. Again, it's a fake blade. Yeah, I don't know where the original is. I know it's somewhere. But it's a fake blade. Plastic blade, getting scratched up to look like metal. Then the handle is a poured casting. We just took a casting of the handle. We didn't have to take a casting of the blade itself. And that was another independent film, if I remember correctly.
It was all hand cut and glued together.
So a lot of times it's in the paint job afterwards. You don't have to spend a lot of money. Now, a production, like a larger scale production, would have us make it from scratch. They would bring us the actual weapon. We would show a little gun handling card, you know, so in the shop, and we would spend days taking molds of certain pieces, unscrewing them, putting them together to make, you know, dummies and replicas of the actuals. And we would have to weight them so they're the right weight, the same weight as the actual gun. But if you're just doing it for yourself, like, it's fine. Like all three of these were fairly small productions. So they didn't have a big budget, so we did them pretty low budget. And they look good on camera. And that's the important part.
So, trying to think of what else we might have access to here. I mean, I think we've been on for at least an hour and a half at this point, almost 2 hours.
Let me finish the list. It's too bad the battery's finally dead.
Oh, it did that.
The battery is finally dead.
After almost 30 years with the same battery.
All you classic Star Wars types, please remember all weapons in the early Star Wars universe were made from real weapons. Leia's Luger is a Luger with added features. This is all plastic. The battery is dead. We have to unscrew it to change the battery.
It's like Han Solo's blaster was a Mauser, right, with added bits and pieces. So.
I put a young lady, and this was many years ago, I put a young lady in my Princess Leia poncho because she didn't have a costume and she wanted to be part of the parade. And the poncho fits everyone. And I put the Luger in its holster and I told her, do not, at all costs, do not pull it out. She was like, what, 10, 12 years old? Somewhere in there?
13.
Okay. Right, so we're talking, you know, a young girl. And someone asked her to pose with it in her hand. And she didn't listen to me. And she pulled it out and went like this. Yeah, I had to holler help to put his gun down because it's fake. And tell her to drop my prop. Yeah, I don't loan it out anymore.
No.
I just don't loan it out anymore. But, again, replicating a paint job for a weapon that looks a particular way. There are plenty of paints out there, and this is years ago. There are better paints than even these out there. And please be smart. Please be smart. We've gotten into the habit. We've got a lot of replica 6-shooters and stuff like that from when we used to do the Wild West shows. I wasn't leaving the weapons behind in BC. And the replica weapons, they cannot make a loud noise which is what we want them to do.
Because they shoot caps, but that's it.
But they don't fire, and they're great for the show. And but I don't. We had to get to a point where we were fluorescent coloring, like that fluorescent orange, hand paint corks to put in the end. So yeah, the more obvious you make it that it's not real, the happier everyone's going to be. And please don't, if you're posing for pictures and you're with your partner for the pictures and you're doing this, right? See, don't, but you can to a certain degree. Make sure you're pointing at your partner for the photo. Make sure you don't point at his face. I don't want to ever catch a player doing this, please. I don't care how much you trust each other. All it takes is someone, all it takes is a security person, and you're done, okay? Stay to the chest. Make sure that if it looks like anything's going to happen, it's going to go through the other person, as opposed to here, where it could be pointing at someone walking down the street. And look at my finger.
Finger is not on the trigger.
I don't want to see anyone putting their fingers inside. You've got a situation and a controlled space, and it's the right thing, and that photographer set it up with you. Yeah, but as long as the public's around, like even look at that last gun that was there a moment ago. It had a gun lock.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's not even a real gun, and it had a gun lock. In production, nothing comes or goes from the shop without a gun lock on the trigger. When actors are done on set in acting, the prop person who's responsible for just the weapons, like the on-sets props, they come up and they put the gun lock on right away. Nothing goes from one point to the other without a gun lock on it, whether it's real or not. Please, 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 please. I want to encourage you guys to do really good jobs because it is an art. Carry a fluorescent color for the end when you're not taking photos. And even if you are taking photos and you're in the right atmosphere where you're going to need that to stay in there, just Photoshop it out later.
Mm-hmm. It's a little fluorescent orange dot.
Yeah. Just like saying to people, wear a mask when you're out. Just wear a mask. It is what it is, okay? Mm-hmm. People are people. Wash.
Trying to think of what else we've got here.
Well, a lot was left behind. There are a number of things that have died over the years and didn't even make it out to BC. So, and we still don't even know what's in the locker, let alone where anything is. Archery equipment. We make bows. When we do bows for just cosplay, we put elastic string on them. We design them so they're bent, so it always looks like you're firing it. It's just elastic string. It's so weak that it can't do any damage, but it looks good in a photo. Fake arrows, the same kind of plastic 2-part casting process with the arrow in the tip while the tip sets, so you don't have to glue it. All the steampunk stuff is in the locker.
Oh, your steampunk pistols here.
Is it?
I just had it.
Oh, it's there. I love steampunk.
And the iPad's up top.
The iPad has absolutely no power to it and is split in the one corner. Again, this was all leftover garbage from Stargate when it wrapped. And we decided we wanted to do some steampunk stuff, so we turned that garbage into props. I love steampunk because you can just go crazy. Battery's starting to die.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Just let your imagination go wild.
Brass,
folks.
copper, and gears.
And again, use the right glues.
Mm-hmm.
And together. Use the wrong glues, you'll be fixing it all the time. So always make sure you use the right glue for your materials. I think I'm exhausted.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel like a bit of queasiness again. So.
Yeah, we haven't been outside at all. Maybe fresh air will do you good.
Maybe.
Okay, pretty heroes. I hope you got something out of it. We weren't kidding. If we had everything here, we could go 3-4 hours. It's not easy to do. I do recommend that you highly encourage people to share from whatever point of information they want to share. I'm going to be making sure that I share from after the please stand by, and a lot of the tech issues. Tomorrow the tech issues will not be as common. Be fine.
All the bugs worked out tonight.
Get the bugs all worked out tonight, yeah. And we have our Patreon. We've decided to start teaching people because usually we get honorariums and stuff from conventions, and conventions were canceled this year, so the Patreon is going to be filtered to be a teach type channel. So everyone, you can find us over there. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Periscope. You can kind of find us on TikTok. I'm still kind of playing with that. You can find us in a lot of places, and it's always CarrHunger.
Hunger, Hunger.
Don't forget my second R. That is my last name. We wanted to register a unique name for our business, and no matter how hard we tried, we just could not get the name we wanted. So we looked at each other and went, no one's going to have our names combined. Let's just do it.
And it worked.
It's good for now. Maybe we'll rebrand in 10, 20 years. I don't know. I haven't gotten there yet. And everyone come say hi. We don't spend as much time giving advice outside of our obligations anymore because we have to recover from this industry. But if you want a quote, let us know. If you want to do some projects with us, it's over with. We may have to find a few more cast members too, because I'd love to do the murder mysteries again.
Fun. They were a lot of fun. Yeah, we did a few of those in BC, different venues, and got a lot of good response. We even did them at the occasional convention down in Seattle. We did them at Emerald City Comic Con.
Oh my God, Emerald City
to
Comic
huge
Con.
audience.
That was a big audience. That was fun trying to do the who is murder part. The guessing part. That was crazy, but we enjoyed every minute of it. We were exhausted, but it was wonderful. All right, folks, we'll see you tomorrow for Wings and Things. Hopefully Martin will not be noon Eastern. Yes. Hopefully Martin will feel much, much better.
I think a good night's sleep and a little bit more food and some fresh.
We go for a fresh air walk?
Yep.
Okay. We're going for a fresh air walk. We like this. All right. I hope that was good. I hope that was what you guys needed, and I hope next year we can actually do it in person.
It's so much easier when you've got all these shiny faces looking up at you on the stage and asking questions.
Shiny faces? What are they, all robots?
Maybe. It could be dressed as robots.
I think we have to say goodbye. I think we've done enough damage.
Thank you, great panel. So many tips. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
See you
Sometimes it kind of explodes. Talk to you all later. Bye. Let's see. Streaming. It's this button.